Well, hello, hello. We're back again for more interviews. I've got another. This is an Othering Thursday. My guest is Wonmin Lee of Pegasus Games, the founder of Pegasus Games, designer of Sisyphus Corp and Love Career Magic, and probably some other stuff by now because Love Career Magic has been out for a while. So, Wonmin, hello, welcome.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
I It was Origins of 2022, I think, or maybe Origins 2021 actually, that like we had Sisyphus Corp in the IGDN booth
Mhm.
and my business partner who I was running the show with, and we took it back to our hotel room and we're like, well, we like board games, let's try this one. And we're
Yeah,
like, this one there's something here. This isn't bad.
yeah.
This is all right. This is all right. Who made this game? And so then that's how I became aware of you was
Oh
by
wow,
playing one
really?
of
I
your
don't know if
games.
I've heard that story before.
Oh yeah,
Maybe I forgot.
I don't know if I have told you before, but anyway, that's how
Wow.
I became aware of you
Yeah,
because your game was in the booth at the
yeah,
IGDN and I was
right.
running the booth, and so then we're like, this is a demo copy. It's open. Let's play it. And
Yeah.
so we played it, and it's a very fun little game, and like I think one of the things that really sells it, right, is all of the like banter on the cards and
Mm,
stuff like that that really
right.
gives you the
Yeah.
feel of, I mean, this isn't even a question. I'm just like telling you stuff. You already know this, but like it really felt officey,
Right.
where you've got the snide comments on the post-it notes and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and you're trying to navigate the corporate
Yeah.
speak to like move around the board and get back to
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
performance review and stuff like that. But there were so many little graphic design elements to it. The different one of the things that Brandon pointed out that was it was so subtle, but it's like it just shows kind of like the level you were already at. Is that the three bosses, because the you started the home space and then you have the three bosses you have to visit around the edge of the board, and then each boss's tie the knot of their tie was a different shape. And
Right.
so you could like it was sort of like a color independence
It was,
thing,
yeah.
but also it's just sort of like sort of a symbol. It was anyway, there was a lot of attention to detail in the game that we noticed when we were playing it. And so uh ever since then, I mean, I've talked to you at many cons and we've talked online and we've talked on phone, whatever. But it's like, I feel like I do know you now more than I did then. But like, even from the jump, as like
Mm,
people are like, this person knows stuff and this person has that they're trying to do.
yeah.
I'm glad to get to talk to you now and kind of like now that your second game is out and I've also played your second game now. So like, again, I said this wasn't even a question. This is just my introduction. It's like,
The long intro, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's my history with you, but we want to hear about your history with games. Like,
Yeah.
and so like one question I've been asking a lot this year for people is like, when did you first realize that because like kids will play games with like a piece of string and a stone, but
Right.
like when did you first, what's the game that you first remember that was like, oh no, this is like a thing that is like in a box and like it's got credits and there are rules and like
Mm,
you're like, oh, this is as a unit, not just
right.
items that you could play with, but like, no, these
Right.
things are together as a set, and this is how you play with them. What's the first sort of game you remember in that way?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess games have been kind of like in my life, sort of in the background ever since I was a kid. You know, my dad would play games. He would play a lot of PC games, older stuff like Warcraft and like Diablo and StarCraft, just regular things that the average Korean man would be interested in. And
Older
just
stuff like StarCraft. Yeah, we were talking about that's, yeah.
like the
I just accept it.
original.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. You're making me feel old, is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I mean to me it's old.
Sure.
Just like growing up, just they've just been kind of in the background, you know, like stuff like Mario and like I don't even remember. It's just growing up, there's just been always games around in my household. I've always been interested in them. My parents buy me some every now and then for Christmas or my birthday or whatever. But like in the terms of like what you just said about like games being like sort of like packaged and just kind of like going through that whole step. I honestly don't know if I've like ever, I mean, obviously I've like mentally I know about it. Like you go to the game store, you buy a box, it has
Yeah.
games in it, you install it and then you play it. Just like I understood it, but like I never really stopped and thought about like the business aspect of it or
Mm,
like the manufacturing or like how much money and effort it goes to create one game, like all of the different people that worked on it, like marketing, not just game design or like game dev, just like marketing, art,
sure.
just the business aspect of it. Probably none of that really I cared about until I made my first game. Yeah,
Well,
honestly.
well, then let me ask it a different way. Like, when did you first think of it as like, because like Mario, whatever, it comes in a little case and you put it
Right.
in it's a gray case and you put it in a bigger gray box and it appears on the screen, and like if you were subscribed to like Nintendo Power or whatever, you could like find out that somebody programmed it, right? But
Yeah.
like, there's some point at which you realize that like somebody made this, right? And more so than the product side, like there was a designer,
Hmm.
and I don't know if it's like some of those early PC games are sort of like were made by like one person,
Right.
programming it on their own desktop,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's another way in, but like because if you made your own games, kind of what I'm getting to, and you can, it is like, when did you think that you could make your own games? Like, I mean, most people who make games have played other games first, is
Mhm.
what I'm saying. So, like, what
Yeah.
was the one that was like, oh, this is a thing, and I could do something like this?
Right.
What was the spark, whether it was a person or a particular game where you're like, no, 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 I want to do this.
Hmm. I think in terms of like my first experience making things, it was probably like the Warcraft 3 editor. Just like making like little mods or like little custom games, stuff like that. But I never really like pursued it as like a serious thing. It was just kind of like something that was interesting after I finished the campaign, and it's just like, oh, I want to play, but I don't know what to play, so let me try this editor out, and then making like dinky little custom games, and it was fun for me. So that happened probably pretty early on, maybe I want to say like high school,
Yeah.
middle school. But then probably more like the idea of like developing and like coding and like making a game probably more solidified when I first played Minecraft. Like because I
Uh,
like heard about like Minecraft being developed by like this one guy, Notch, right? Um, and so I think that's kind of like where that idea of like the solo game dev or like the indie game dev kind of like planted
mm,
its seed inside me. And then it was just kind of like, hey, this is a viable thing people have done out in the world since I like games and I like making, or I like, until that point, I didn't have too much experience making games, but like it felt like an avenue that was worth exploring. So I
mm.
think that's where the seeds were planted.
So I talked to Jordan Duby. I don't know if you know who he is. He's also with us in the IGDN, but he also was started in it has come to RPGs and tabletop card games and stuff like that. But he also had like his initial stuff was all in video game stuff. So did you make some like, there's like an Unreal Engine level editor and you made your own like I don't is that the start of it, making like levels to play, and then you or like wasn't there a Halo editor or something like that? You could
Yeah.
like make your own Halo levels. Did it start with that, just as simple as that, like using the tools to make hey, I made this thing, it's a 3D environment that I can walk around in? Or did you go right to like programming, little, your own jump man, like what
Right.
is the did you try video games making them first?
Yeah, honestly, it all just started with Warcraft 3 map editor. Just like changing the map, changing units, changing what they do, just experimenting little by little, creating little fun games. Because Warcraft 3 at that time was like probably like golden age of like custom games and like modding games. So I played a lot of custom games and I wanted to, try my hand at making my own. I mean, I don't really remember most of them. There was like one that was something like escape from some icy mountain or something like that. But none of mine like I didn't like give it too much serious thought or like put a
Hmm.
lot of actual effort into it. It was just just goofing around as a kid, seeing what I can do, seeing what I can do, seeing what I can make. It's like a kid in a sandbox or like a kid with
Sure.
a box of Legos just like playing around, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So wait, then, so like, obviously, well, I would assume that you had like there was something that I'm going to propose a narrative here, and you tell me what parts are wrong,
yeah,
right? You're at some point you were like, oh, but I want to try this for real, and you're like, oh, but I'll need like $15 million to make another game, and you were talking before about all the people in the back end and the
right.
marketing stuff that goes into it, and you're like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll make something smaller. Let me look at this, what a box of cards can do, and is that kind of the arc that happened, or is it? That's one way that I can see it
Yeah,
going, or like because like with Sisyphus Corp, like that's a serious attempt to make a game, but
right.
I assume it wasn't your first. I assume there was something that
Honestly,
was
Sisyphus was basically the first serious attempt. Because uh, at the time when I decided to make a board game, I was doing my own startup, and I was really kind of burnt out of coding, and I was tired of staring at screens all day. And I discovered this Reddit post, like an AMA Ask Me Anything post about some couple who like designed a board game and then they like that's what they do now. They quit their jobs and then they just do that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that like
life
inspired
goals.
me. Yeah. What's that?
Life goals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, that sounds cool. I could do that. Why not? And my parents, they own a printing company here in New York City or New York, Long Island to be precise. And I thought at the time that having a printing company would provide me like good competitive edge, right? Access to like I don't know, printing things that I could make a game with. So at the time, I was just like very kind of like naive and about the whole thing, just kind of like, hey, I read this thing on the internet and I like games and I want to try making it. So in the very, very beginning, it was not serious. It was just, can I do this? Let's try. I have time. I'm young.
Hmm.
Let's see what happens. Kind of attempt. And then I did it for a while. And then eventually, through many play tests and many iterations, Sisyphus popped out. Yeah, very interesting how that happens.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I joked about you asked to be called a founder, and you were talking about just now about your startup. So like, there is sort of like a I don't know. As somebody who isn't in New York, like they're just that seems like or New York and LA, like and maybe San Francisco, there and maybe Chicago. There's like a lot of places where there are people who like just start things in that kind of way. And it's like I think of it's like permission almost. Like either sometimes somebody gives you the permission, right? Whether it's your parents or just osmosis from, or you see you were on a Reddit, somebody tells you you can, or you figure you can. Why can't I? Nobody said I can't.
Right.
It's kind of the same way. So I don't know. There just seems there maybe there's more of that kind of energy in a place like New York because it is so it's a big city and it spills out into all the area. I mean, it's like what 75% of the GDP of New York State or whatever. I mean, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
It's probably more. It's a big place and it has a lot of energy going on there. Do you feel that sort of like vibe from living there? Is that part of it? And your parents own a business, so like is it like
Yeah.
is
I
it
think
is
it's less about the city. I mean, the city does have its like, I want to call it like hustling mentality. Like there's a lot of people who are hustling, trying to do something like side gigs or like trying to, get a leg up, right? Basically. And my parents are very similar. They immigrated here when I was young, in hopes for like a better opportunity, more opportunity, better life for myself. They were pursuing similar things. So it's I think it's kind of like the American dream, basically. You just come here, you're trying to chase your dreams, trying to chase something to, break the rat race, kind of,
Mm.
instead of just climbing the corporate ladder, instead of just, working the 9 to 5 and doing the same boring job, whatever, for 40 years and then retiring. you're trying to, I don't know, do something different, which is
Yeah.
kind of what Sisyphus is about.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's about it in reverse almost, right?
Right, yeah,
Because
like
you
a,
are trying to climb the corporate ladder, but it's
yeah,
sort of like a satire version
exactly.
of it, you
Yeah.
know. Or at least that's my take.
Yeah. I mean, my hope, the hope is that like by playing it, it would hopefully inspire people to be like, hey, this is my life. What am I doing? Let me go chase that dream I've been dreaming about for like the past 10 years or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah. And I mean, I, and what is the, as an entry point, then is it like, I know it took you a long time to come out with your second game. There was a lot of starts and stops and
Yeah.
then, production took a while and I mean you're through all of it now. It's been out and you're selling the second game and um but is it, this is sort of maybe a question for the end, I guess, but like is that, has it inspired you to do now that you've gone through the work of getting all of the stuff, like there's a lot more to it than just to making a product that is saleable at the end of the process than there is to like I've got my notes on a piece of some cards that I wrote down and I started with some blank cards and this is a game, you can play it and it says in my handwriting what to do on each card and then like, but all the hoops that you go through, all the process that you go through, all the work that you do to get to the point of like, here's a bunch of boxes with art on them, or here's a box with art on it, and it's got the cards inside and they're all printed, and are you, what I guess I'm saying is like, are you pursuing your dream? Continue? Are you continuing to pursue your dream, or you've like had enough already? I don't know.
No, no, I'm still doing it. Small update is that right now the immediate short-term goal is to, sell the rest of my inventory for Love Career Magic. I have probably, I want to say 1,500 or so left. I don't know. I don't really keep track off the top of my head. But and then I think for my next game, I'm trying to explore maybe like a video game or something.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because right now, technically, or not technically, I am right now participating in this like boot camp, like coding boot camp,
All right.
to like develop a video game for a conference that's happening at the end of August. Do you know Play NYC? Have you ever heard of it?
Maybe it doesn't sound unfamiliar.
Have you ever heard of Anime NYC?
I don't know if I've heard of that one.
Okay, well, anyways, it's a big convention in New York City in the Javits
Hmm.
Center. It's anime, like kind of like Comic-Con, very anime related. And then within it, there's like a section for video games called Play NYC. And then even more within that, there's a booth. There's a company called Turbo that's like creating their own game engine. And they were doing like a boot camp this summer for people who are interested in learning that engine and like making a small game, small web game, and then like coming to the convention to demo it. So I applied to that. I got accepted. So I've been doing that for like the past month or two.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been good.
that's
A bit-
that's all really cool. Like I imagine that the, and maybe this is, like uh I imagine like you have experience with dealing with assets and like commissioning art and stuff like that that maybe other people who are doing a coding boot camp
yeah,
haven't done,
yeah.
so maybe is that
Oh yeah,
that feel good?
yeah, there are so many things I've learned from doing this board game dev thing that I can like lean on throughout this whole process that it's just been amazing to just kind of look back and see like, oh wow, I know a lot. Because like they would host like workshops and stuff about random things, and then one of the workshops was like how to like make your booth look good or like how to attend a conference and like stand out and I was like, I already know all of that. Like I've done it. I've done it for my game, and it was, I don't really need to pay attention here. But things like it's like there's a lot of transferable skills, I think.
Yeah.
Like things like play testing, trying to figure out what's fun, trying to figure out, all of the stuff you mentioned, like assets and talking to people, hiring people. haven't necessarily gotten to that point yet with my game, but a lot of the same skills kind of apply. Because I think at the end of the day, it's really all about, how can you create something that's fun and whether it's coding, whether it's writing on an index card or whatever. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if it's fun, people like it, then all that matters is how you present it and how you market it, right? And that's all the same, whether it's video game or tabletop or RPG or whatever.
Yeah. I yeah, I mean it is such a yeah, transferable skills as you said. It's like anything you do, there's an overlap, right? As a person who, for myself, mostly makes role-playing games, the board game side is similar, but it's trying they're almost always trying to accomplish something very different from each other in terms of like length of play and replayability. And a board game is almost always a one and done experience. You set it up, you play it, that was it, you put it away. you know Role-playing games have often an assumption that they're going to go on and on and on. Every time you set it up, you're not totally resetting. You get out your stuff and you've got your sheet that you've changed, and you're playing forward. So they're different design things, but it's so much of this. There are so many things that are similar. There's big overlaps. Um,
Yeah,
what are some of the maybe because you started with the idea of video games and then now you're kind of coming back to it, like, and
right.
we've totally skipped Love Career Magic, and we should totally talk about that, and I will in a second. But
Yeah.
like the what are some of the biggest like things that you've found that are the same? Like, I mean, you said about playtesting and you talked about looking for a fun thing, but like, what are some of the other, like, is there anything else that's like real specific about like the process, the game design, sort of that you wouldn't necessarily, that you think maybe is a surprise to you, that you're like, oh no, I did do all of this when I
Mhm.
was doing these other two board games, that is coming up now. I don't know.
Um, I think one thing I do miss about designing board games is how much faster you can do like changes and like play
Mm,
testing, right? Because like I just change a number, right? And then I just write it down and then it's done. And then I can make any new game design decisions and like change a mechanic or whatever, however I want. And then it's just done. It's on a piece of paper and then I change it. If I explain a game to a new play tester, I just say, hey, the rules have changed XYZ, and then that's it. Versus like a video game, it's like now I have to, if I want to change something, unless it's like a simple like tweaking of a variable or like a number or something, then it's like creating an entirely new mechanic, and that might take, I don't know, a day or two or a week to, code. And then that slows me down a lot. But I think it really helps because I've done two games so far. Like I have a better, I want to call it fun-dar, like fun
mm,
radar, like a better
yeah.
idea, a better sense of like, where the fun is, or at least like a fun compass, like which direction do I need to head in for the fun to be found, right? It's
Uh,
like my heading is better calibrated.
I'm a huge fan of that phrase, the fun compass. Lead
Yeah,
me to
fun
the fun.
compass.
Where is it?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
well, I think that is, I want to take up from that point and ask you about Love, Career, Magic, because we talked a little bit about Sisyphus Corp being sort of sort of a wake-up call to people. Like, you were supposed to come out of
Right.
it with this sort of like existential realization that the climbing the corporate ladder may not be as fulfilling as you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's a very serious, though the game is kind of jokey, it's sort of got this
Yeah.
serious point to it. But then Love, Career, and Magic, which I received my copy, and I actually just I played it a few weeks ago with a bunch of nieces and nephews, and
Nice.
it was they. I, I mean, I think of them as like tiny, tiny children, but they're like teenagers now
Right.
because I've known them for their whole lives. But like they're all teenagers, I think, now. But like, I'm like, oh, these kids are really getting into this, and I'm like, no, they're like teenagers. This is perfect for them. But they really got into like the goofiness of it and
Nice.
that fun radar. As you talked about, the fun compass is like definitely a part of Love, Career, Magic, and I want to ask you about that, like with going from a game with a serious message or a serious tone to
Mhm.
like, no, this is going to be as colorful, as silly as I can make it. Like, Is that how you is that the fun compass? Like, was it already speaking to you, or does working on that Love Career Magic help you
Yeah.
develop that fun compass?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's all I think it's always being developed. The
Mm,
compass, it's always I'm always open to feedback. People tell me things all the time, and then it's kind of like a living thing, right? So the main reason for Love Career Magic, the main thing I wanted to try was trying to create something that was more accessible.
mm,
Um, I mean, this is kind of like in hindsight, but at the time, I don't know if I like set out like with like the overarching goal of like, hey, let's create something that's more accessible. I just wanted to create a second game, and then it ended up happening that it was more accessible, I think. But
mm,
some definite goals were like the art style and like the, I guess, glance value of my game. I needed it to be much better than Sisyphus because the number one lesson I learned from Sisyphus was that like a game needs to look fun and needs to look good to attract attention and want have people come over at a booth or have people pick it up at a game at a store or like want to learn more about it if they like happen upon it in the wild, right? So
yeah,
that's the number one goal I had. So I that's definitely from the very beginning I set out I need this game to have fantastic art, which is why it was very important that I find like the perfect illustrator and the perfect artist. Um, just make sure everything is kind of tied together and like cohesive in like that world, right? The world that I built of inside Love Career Magic. Yeah, so that was definitely the goal number one. Goal
yeah.
number two was the fun part.
Well, tell us a little bit about Love Career Magic then.
Yeah,
I mean, I can tell it, but
yeah,
you've
yeah,
given the
sure.
pitch many times. So
I
what?
mean, not just the pitch too. I mean, the pitch everyone's heard the pitch, but not everyone knows like where the game came from or like
Sure,
why
yeah.
was made. So the game is basically my pandemic baby. It was like
Okay.
right around 2020, like right around COVID lockdowns that I was entertaining the idea of like creating my next game, right? Sisyphus just got out, or Sisyphus was not out yet. It was like Sisyphus was mostly done. Like all the design of it was done. I was in talks with like manufacturers and just needed to do the Kickstarter. And I was just exploring what my second game would be. And then at that time, I was really obsessed with this show, this reality TV show called Terrace House. I don't know if you know. It's on
I'm not much
Netflix.
of a reality TV
No, yeah,
watcher,
I know. I'm,
so
I'm not either. It's just this one show just happened to
yeah.
get my attention.
I,
A friend of mine
it's
recommended it to me, and then I was like, okay, sure, why not? I'll just watch an episode, and then it just like hooked me. Like, there's like five seasons, I think, and I just like binge watched the whole thing like during that period of my life, and I was super obsessed with it. I even hosted like local meetups in my apartment. Like I literally posted it on the subreddit being like, hey, I'm gonna host a weekly meetup. Anyone is invited to come. And I just like invited random strangers to come into my apartment and we would watch it together. And that was fun. So originally the game was very Terrace House themed. Like it was using characters from the show to kind of it was basically like Terrace House role-playing card game. A lot of the show has a very specific like format. It would be like reality show, and then there would be like commentators who would like commentate on what they're seeing, and then go back to the reality show, and then it's just kind of like going back and forth like rounds, right? So I took that and I created a game out of it. So where like people would be like playing characters from the show, but like role playing. It was basically like Terrace House, the RPG, but in card game format.
all
Um,
right. Yeah. And I mean I can't imagine a more stimulating environment than like, hey, strangers, come into my house and let's watch this show together. Like that's got to be like generating some
Yeah,
ideas just
exactly.
from
And
that.
then like after the show, we watched the episode, like I would pull out the game and we would play, and then it would be so much fun because everyone would be having so much fun. It was basically I realized now, literally as I'm talking, that I had created an RPG
Yeah.
and I just didn't even know. And it was just I was playing with people, we were role playing as these characters, and just it was so much fun. Um, and then And then COVID happened, so everything got locked down, and then the show got canceled, basically. There was a lot of controversy and a lot of scandals around the show.
Let-
And then the sh
like what good reality show doesn't have
Exactly.
scandals around it?
Exactly, right? So the show got canceled. And at that point, I was kind of like pretty much done with like the game, like in terms of like the game design, everything was finalized. I even like made like little prototypes thanks to like my parents having a print shop, right? That's the one good thing. I'm able to like create prototypes really quickly. So I even like took it to Japan. I tried to contact the owner, like the rights holders to the show, like
Mm.
trying to like create like an official like license like thing. But then like at that time, like I don't even have, who am I, right? Like I don't even think Sisyphus was out yet. I'm just like this wannabe game designer. Like no way they would work with me. Like who is this guy who just made like a handmade board like card game? Like why would we trust our IP to you, right?
Mm.
So but then it didn't matter at the end because the show got canceled and then they just the TV company and Netflix just kind of like dropped it and it just never came back. So at that point I was just left with like this game that I don't know just was just sitting there useless, gathering dust. And then I met another friend of mine who suggested like you should just reskin it and then just like re-release it with like a totally different like vibe. And he was the one who came up with like the fantasy, like modern world idea. And he was like, "Yeah, people eat this stuff up. Like you gotta you gotta reskin this. Like you have a good game, so why not just keep working on?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that's brilliant." And then that's where like the idea of like I need great art, I need my characters to stand out. All of that kind of started snowballing. Yeah, so that's where Love Career Magic came from. Long story short, long
Oh,
story.
well, long story long. It's fine.
Yeah.
That was a great story. I love that. And I mean, we could talk a little bit about the mechanics too. I think the characters briefly talk about like how it actually plays and
Sure.
simulates the 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 format of a reality show, but
Hmm.
it's you've got a unicorn UX designer and a orc who's in like a lawyer, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think there's a I was a I when I played I was a basilisk, but I can't remember what my job was. There's like photographers and it's a good number of, like you say, modern day jobs, but they're
Yeah,
all these sort of fantasy creatures
yeah.
that are in these different jobs, and they've got little bio cards that tell you, they give you the like I'm sure you had for the character cards for the game that you were talking about, the
Exactly.
Terrace House
Yeah.
characters or whatever. Like, I mean, it tells you what they want and what they're trying to accomplish with their lives and with their
Hmm.
lives, and then you get the rest of the game is like these other decks of cards that are director notes and plot points and locations where things are happening, and you're flipping over all these cards and you've got a spread of them, and it is unusual to me in that it's got this time pressure element where it's like you play a 3 minute round in
Right.
RIL 3 minutes, and you just kind of talk about what your character's doing, and you're looking at the spread of stuff, and it's like, oh, well, I think I can accomplish, we're at this location, so then that lets me accomplish this character goal because I'm at this location. And but then this card requires that both of us, I have to get in a fight. So will you fight with me if I insult your horn, unicorn? And like, yeah, I think that'd be funny because then I can use this card. And then you're just kind of all talking simultaneously while the timer goes off. And then
Yeah.
there you go. That was your episode. And then you turn over another location for the next episode, and you only play 4 episodes. It's 12 minutes long, and that's it. I mean, it's not. I don't think it overstays its welcome in any way. It's almost like um, I don't know, when I've only played it the one time with the nieces and nephews, like I said, and they were like the first episode was sort of like they didn't know what to do really, but then by the second episode they had
Yeah.
figured out what they were doing and were creating wild storylines. Uh,
Nice.
somebody was, I think, in the third episode of the series that I played, one of the characters was murdered, but then they revealed that they'd uploaded themselves to the cloud. And then the fourth episode, the location was the cloud. So
Oh
then we were
wow.
like, oh, it's perfect. Now we're in your house, like show us
Nice.
around in your like afterlife or whatever.
Right.
And so anyway, that's the way the game plays, and it is very fun and it's very silly and it's sort of random and you're scoring points for how well the show is doing basically. That's, it's but I don't think it's really about the points. I mean, it is kind of
Right.
it's about the points, but it's not really about the points. Um anyway, that's the game. And so I was going to ask you about the I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about the game itself and like or making it or a component because I have a question about kind of like it's totally related to the story that you shared about like how you came up with the idea, but like, did I miss anything in my description of the game itself?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's basically perfect, right? The goal of the game is to have a bunch of people, maybe strangers, maybe friends, come together for 12 minutes, play this game, and then kind of walk away with like inside jokes, right? Like you just said, like this person uploaded themselves to a cloud and like they were murdered or whatever. Like to totally random person that you don't know, like that means that's like, whoa, what are you talking about? That's crazy. But then to the six of you or however many of you there were, that's like now an inside joke that you can talk about, and just like have something to relate to each other. And so that's how I pitch my game. I want people to come together and then walk away kind of like friends in just 12 minutes. And I think the game is very conducive to that, or at least the rapid fire nature of it is just so silly and there's just so much stuff happening, so much chaos that it just kind of like some crazy wild storylines eventually like appear and then like side stories kind of get dropped, but then like eventually there's like one overarching goal, or not goal, but like one strong main storyline that people follow, and then that sticks to your brain and then you just kind of remember it afterwards. Yeah, that's good.
So like from a game design
Mhm,
standpoint, like the idea that you are going to try to accomplish it seems like a very, I mean, constraints in game design often lead to creative solutions,
mhm,
but like giving yourself the game happens in only 12 minutes. Like,
mhm.
where does that come from? Because that seems very
Yeah,
atypical,
yeah,
from a both from a role-playing standpoint and a board game standpoint.
yeah.
Like, that's a very odd amount of time to try to capture the game in. And so, like, did that come out of the playtesting organically, or did you go in with like, I want this sort of constraint to it?
No, it came from a different game. Have you ever played 5 Minute Dungeon?
No, I think I've
It's
heard of
yeah.
Five Minute Dungeon though,
It's
but
a board game. Well, I own a reskin version called 5 Minute Marvel. It's basically every minute, every round is 5 minutes, and then in 5 minutes you're just kind of like putting down a bunch of cards, trying to defeat enemies and stuff. And then when I was developing the game, or like trying to not the second time when I first failed the Kickstarter, and then I tried to relaunch it, and then I was like going back at like the gameplay mechanics and trying to revamp it to be more fun and more accessible. At that time period, I was really into this 5 minute Marvel game. And then that's where the timer came from. And then I was like, the timer is not bad. Let me try putting it in my playtest and seeing how that works. And then, I tweak the numbers a little bit. Sometimes there's 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and then it just kind of like naturally gravitated to 3 minutes. And then it I think really worked well in all my playtesting.
yeah, I, it is it's certainly a unique thing, but maybe, 5 Minute Marvel, that makes sense that there are those things there. You talked about playtesting, you talked about this house party aspect of watching the show. Um, you seem to be really good at like asking people to do things, like especially like, hey, beyond my here's because like your crowdfunding page for this game has like so many like people playing it. There's lots of videos of
Yeah.
people playing your game.
Yeah.
And I think you are really good at that. Do you think you're good at that? Is it just like
I
it's
think
like what makes you so able to get like so many people to like I mean, like, but then that's what this is a question I have for you already. It was on my like list of like, you seem to be good at that. Do you think you're good at that? But then like you were telling the story about like inviting people in your apartment building to watch a show with you, and
Yeah.
so I think it's definitely something that you do. I don't.
Yeah. I don't know if I consider myself to be good at it. It was just kind of like a necessity, right? Like my game is kind of like a more casual party game. And those types of games, when I would go on Kickstarter to like research other similar party games, almost all of them had pe like footage of people playing the game rather than like focusing on the mechanics or focusing on the art, right?
Hmm.
And I think that really helped my Kickstarter because that's like the lesson I took, right? For my second launch. The first launch, I was a little bit, the video was a little bit too thematic and not
Hmm.
really focused on the game or how it plays versus the second time it was like immediately from the get-go I was just like bombarding the user with like funny clips of like people playing the game and then it's just like grabs your attention immediately and it's like, oh, what is this game? It looks like people are enjoying it. It's like that social proof, right? So I knew I needed that for the second relaunch, which is why I tried to get people to play my game and film it as much as possible. Yeah.
And so do you have to like just be like, oh, well, I know I need it, so I just have to go do it, and
Yeah,
you're just
exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
like stoic about it, or
Yeah.
is it sort of like I don't know, you could I don't know, you turn it on sometimes like you've got like a reserve of like socialness that you could
Yeah.
just like
Basically, at any convention, I just use up my entire month's worth of social energy and then I like hermit for like three weeks straight.
mm,
Basically, yeah. I don't think I'm like an extrovert. It's just I can turn it on when it's necessary, right?
yeah.
But I don't gain energy from talking to people. I recover from being by myself like an introvert, but
Yeah.
I can act extroverted. Yeah.
Yeah. I I I used to always say that I was an introvert, but the more I go to cons, I think maybe I'm the
Yeah.
extroverted one.
Yeah.
Um,
Only, I mean, just you're just like me then, you can turn it on at cons, but then in your normal everyday life, you're not necessarily, talking to strangers.
well, I think it's well, yeah. I mean, I think it's maybe it's like the your people thing where it's like I go to a
Right.
con and it's like the people that I want to talk to are people who are other game
Right.
designers or are there to
Yeah.
buy games or are, general nerdery, right? Whereas
Yeah.
like I don't run into those people on unless I'm at a con or a game store. Um, so I don't know. Well, I don't really have any other questions about Love, Career, and Magic. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say about it or talk about it? Like, the as you know, as an accomplishment, a thing you've done. What's the anything else you want to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. I'm particularly proud of like so the first Kickstarter for Sisyphus, I'm sure you know, but like whenever a creator launches their first something, like first Kickstarter, first, I don't know, game, first product, first company, whatever, there's usually like to use a gaming term, like a buff, like a
Mm.
one-time buff that you get from your friends and family,
Oh,
like so a
yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
people from my friends, a lot of my friends, a lot of my family members would donate to the Kickstarter campaign, not because they like the game, but just because they like me.
Yeah,
And I've just built up a bunch of social credit, I guess, over throughout my life, my 30 plus years of life. And they would be like, oh, Wonmin launched this thing. That's cool. I love Wonmin. Let me go donate $5, $10, $20,
yeah,
whatever. But they don't really care about the game versus so that was for my first game and that without that buff I don't think it would have been successful,
yeah,
but my second game, Love Career Magic, the ratio of like friends and family to people I don't know was like completely the opposite, right?
yeah,
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I wrote it down somewhere, but like for Love Career Magic, it was like huge. I want to say maybe 80, 90% people I don't know,
yeah,
which
yeah,
means that, all the work I put into the game and all the work I put into like the Kickstarter page and the video, like it paid off because most of the people who are backing cared about the game and
right,
don't really know me.
right.
So that was a big accomplishment in my eyes, and I was very proud of that.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that's great. That's great. And it is definitely the same. I have the same, Kickstarter 1, Kickstarter 2 story for our company,
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, my grandmother, the father-in-law, the uncle,
Right.
everybody's given me $100 because they're like, oh, I like what you guys are up to. But then like, yeah, n none of those people were there for the second Kickstarter.
Exactly.
And
Same.
and but like, and so like our second crowdfunding was smaller, but it was also like 100% people that, not 100%. I think there's a couple people who I think my dad still backs most of my Kickstarters,
Right.
because it's,
Yeah, I mean, my parents and my close friends, my wife, I'm sure they'll be backing, but
right.
like the one friend from high school who I don't talk to ever, he's never backing anything again, you know.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So it is the you build up that, yeah, you have to I like that idea too of the one-time buff. You get the one-time buff the first time, and then the next time you have to do it kind of on the strength of the first game, but also the strength of the
Yeah.
second pitch and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a thing in the industry, I think.
So I think right now I'm kind of now that I've done one and two, I'm trying to explore how to get more like fans, like super
Hmm,
fans. Like I'm sure you know, you guys do a great job at this, I think, where you have people who are like fans of your work and fans of your products and just like really like what you're doing and just kind of stick with you, right? And I don't think I have that. Like I have a Discord server, I have Facebook, I have all of these socials, but like I, maybe I'm just doing at it. I'm just going out at it the wrong way. I don't like post enough, but like a lot of my fans, I think, are like one-time fans. They
hmm,
just kind of like discover Love Career Magic, they discover Sisyphus, and then they just kind of like enjoy it for what it is, like in a vacuum, right? They don't tie my name to it. They don't tie my company name to it, and they're not like following me to see what I'm up to next, right?
hmm.
That's what I want next, I guess, in my
Yeah,
next like venture is like you guys have so many like you have so many games and you have I'm sure you have plenty of fans who like come to your conventions, come to your booth like, oh my God, it's nice to see you guys. When is XYZ coming out? When, like things like
right,
that. Like I
right.
want that next.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean we are 10 years old as a company this year. Um, and so we've been at it a little while, and definitely built up that one. I think it is uh our first two games were not popular, but it was our third game before we had like a hit of any kind.
Yeah.
And so maybe you skipped them, because our second one was a supplement for the first one, so that's kind of one thing. So maybe it's our second thing that was the kind of always been
When
our
you
lo
say when you say 10 years, like how do you count that? Like do you count starting from
uh
the release of your first game or
so I count it from like the incorporation of we set up with the incorporated company, we got a bank account, we launched our
uh
first Kickstarter, and that's all happened in 2015. So it's been 10 years
okay.
since we incorporated as a company so that we could put the money from the first crowdfunding campaign in the
Mhm.
business bank account rather than like one of our two bank accounts as like an individual.
Yeah.
And so that's when I date it from. I know other people are like, no, 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 I'm not a real company until I release my first product. If that
Right.
was the case, it did take us 2 years to make the first product. So we're a couple years away from the 10th year anniversary of our first game coming out, but
Yeah.
I definitely count it from like the legal incorporation of the
Yeah.
company.
Let me give me a second. Let me actually look up when I incorporated. I'm curious now because I don't know if I would consider that. Let me see. Yeah, I have it here. I incorporated 2019, but then the Kickstarter didn't go until 2021. And I could even go as far back as 2018 is when I kind of like started actually putting ideas down onto pen and paper. So I don't know when I should count from because
Yeah.
like I wish I did incorporating and Sisyphus launch at the same year, but it's 2 years in between that, so I don't know if I can. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I think you define it however you want, right?
Yeah,
Like, this is our, that's when we because we Brandon and I had written a couple books together for other companies before we launched the game, or before we launched our own attempt to make a game, and so we had some experience already. But that when our partnership began earlier than our first game came out and stuff like that, so that's you know it, whatever. You got to pick a date, and that's when we
Yeah.
pick is what it is. But what I'm saying is, yeah, we definitely have continued to come out with games, and there are people who I mean, and this is sort of like one of the questions that I had for you. Like, I mean, I guess if you're working on your coding project, you're going to make a video game, maybe not, but like there's sort of like a tension I feel, especially counting from my own numbers 10 years in, like the first three games that the first three products that Brandon and I released is like Brandon wrote some of it, I wrote some of it. We would read each other's work and then for our third one we brought in a bunch of other writers as well, but it was still like our game design process. We figured out the system together. Brandon drafted it and then I made adjustments and then we figured out stuff together. And like, but there's a lot of games that we do now which are like they just come, people pitch to us and we say, yeah, that sounds great. And like we don't have any game design part of it at all. We're just a publisher, quote
Wow.
unquote, just a publisher,
Right.
like as if there's nothing to do other than just, oh, we just run the crowdfunding campaign and just do all the promotion of the game. And we just manage the art direction. That's all we do. We're just a publisher. But I don't know if that is like a thing for you where you're thinking about that side of it too, where you've got, because like what you were saying before about like people follow us, but like it's like there's sort of a kind of game that we publish under our name, and sometimes other people are like, hey, I made a game like that, will you publish my game? And we're like, yes, looks great, we love it, this is exactly the kind of game that we would want to have designed ourselves, so we will publish your game. um, are you, do you think you will always be a person who designs your game and then does the publishing stuff as well? Or would you want to take on like other people coming and saying like, "Ooh, I have a design. I think it could be a Pegasus Games game." Would you
Yeah.
want to be like a publisher? Is
Yeah.
that
I think I can go on the record here and say I have almost zero interest in publishing other people's games.
that's fine. That's fine. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, people have come up to me in booths at random conventions, just like other game designers with their ideas and just, kind of, talking shop. And they were, kind of poking around like, hey, like, would you be interested in helping me publish? And then I would be like, no, sorry. That's the part I didn't like the most.
Right. I mean, it is another one of those. It's like you kind of decide whether you're going to be that or not, whether you're going to do that as a company or not. And, there's no wrong answer. It's just what your answer is. Um, yeah. All right. I'm looking at my question. All right. So if anybody comes to me, don't send them to you because you don't.
Yeah, write that down.
Right. Right. All right. Well, I don't know if there's anything you have to say about the game you're working on now. You said you're working on a video game. I don't know if you want to tease it a little more. We kind of talked about it already. If you've already said as much as you want to say, then you don't have to say any more. But if you've got some other tease you want to give for that one,
Uh, I don't want
well,
to tease it because
okay, that's fine.
no, the reason is because whatever
You're
I
involved in like
say.
a
No, no, it's not like that. It's not like that.
oh
It's just whatever I say, I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to get it to that level because it's the convention Play NYC is end of August, so I have like a little over a
yeah,
month, not even maybe 5 weeks.
yeah, about five
And
weeks.
yeah, it's like crunch time now. So the more
Wow.
I tease or the more I promise, then that's like the more chance that I'll let down someone who is expecting XYZ.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's that's fine. That's fine. Keep your cards close. This is the game you were always intending. There's no features that are missing. It's all
I will say though, it was I'm building out my third board game idea. Like it was originally
okay.
going to be my third board game, and then now I'm kind of like at like a full circle moment where I'm kind of burnt out of board games, so I'm going back to coding. But maybe, 5 years later I'll come back. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's I think it's great to have kind of different things. Like there's a lot of companies. that we've got games, we do board games. We've got two. Our second board game for us for Wet Ink is on the boat now, going to be available later this year. We've got other ones that we've talked to, we're working on. We do a lot of role-playing games, but there's always those two things. I know MythWorks. I don't know if you know their stuff, but they've got a lot of role-playing games. But then they also do or they do comic books. So it's like they're a publisher of books, but like sometimes it's comic books, sometimes it's role-playing games. And so I think that having things to switch between is good, is what I'm saying. Um, so maybe you're doing all right. You're doing all right over there. Video games and board games. Why not?
Yeah.
All right, Wonmin. I think we've talked for almost an hour now, so I want to give you a chance to tell people who've listened to this conversation, uh, you know, where they can follow you on the socials, where they can buy Love Career Magic,
Mhm.
where they can, watch these videos we've been talking about people
Yeah.
happily playing the games. Where are you? Where are you on the internet, and where can your stuff be found?
Yeah, I guess everything, my website, my company website kind of links to everything, all my socials and my games. So I'll just plug that. It's unicornwithwings.com. And it'll have both my games, Sisyphus and Love Career Magic, and it'll have all of my social media handles as well. I will say though, for Sisyphus, I don't think I have many copies left. I want to say less than 10 probably. So if you are listening and it's interesting, then you should buy it now.
Buy it while you can. Buy it
Yeah,
while you
buy
can.
it while
It's
I
cool.
can. I'm not going to do another print run, so
It'll be a collector's item for those
yeah,
who
rare
got
item
it.
on eBay or something.
All right. Well, if it's all connected to Unicorns with Wings, then you've already said it all. Thanks for doing this interview with me, Oneman,
Of
and
course.
good luck on your crunch time for your game
Yeah.
jam. And we'll see you at the cons maybe later in the year.
Yeah, sounds good.